Land to learn all this stuff. We're going to have 2 individuals who are not going to be able to make it to class for the rest of the semester. So we will be counseling those individuals online, and I will be talking about how you deal with somebody online. I've got a whole chapter on it, or I've got a whole section on it. So we will be doing that. Last time I taught this class, as I told you before, we had 2 instructors for this class, one in Tuba City and one here. The crew in Tuba City, they all signed up for the class. They got quit on Friday before the Monday when we started. So I had to teach both classes, but I had to do one of them online and the other one in the classroom, of course. I know, it was hard. So we had to adjust. You know, how do you do that? Do I run to Tuba City? No, I can't do that, because their class time is the same time as ours was. Not only that, but I was teaching 9 hours, so I was teaching 9 classes. Did I say 9 hours? It was a pain. So we figured out how to do it online. Now we have 2 students that can't, they've taken jobs someplace else. They want to finish the class. And I told them it was okay with me, but you guys are going to have to counsel them online. And they are going to have to counsel you the same way. So what will happen is each of us will counsel somebody 10 times, and some of that will be online for you, and some of it will be online for them. So they will be writing you questions, and you'll have to answer them. Okay? And we'll talk about how we're going to do that in the future. But if you think about online counseling, this may be the wave of the future. There's already a lot of counseling online. I was talking to an individual last year, and they had started their counseling over the summer, and they went to 2 counseling sessions. The counselor said, you know, I think you're okay. I think we can email from now on. And so they emailed for the rest of the summer, and that's how they maintain their counseling sessions. So this is the wave of the future. Virtual reality counseling. Okay, so we'll talk about that, and maybe this is something that is needed here on the reservation, because if you think about the people up in Kayenta, where do they go for their counseling? Cortez? I don't know. Where do they go? I don't know either. Do they have to drive over some mountain in order to be counseled?
They have a behavioral health unit there.
There you go. See, they all go there, and they're like lined up and waiting for them. It's like, have you ever been to church?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Catholic church? Oh, where you go to confession? Okay. That's the way they do it. You line up for confession. And then, you know, the one person, and so you get somebody with just a ton of problems. Are you picturing this? They got a ton of problems. And they're right in front of you. And it always happens. I'm just kidding. I'm not Catholic, so I don't know. But that's the way it works. I see it on television all the time. Anyway, okay. So we're going to start counseling people online. So it seems like a good idea. Or somebody in mini farms. Do they have a behavioral health place in mini farms? Wheatfield they have 2, don't they?
Saley has it.
Saley has it.
Yeah.
But what about Wheatfields?
There's no clinic there. It's just a
So
chapter house.
they have to drive all the way to Saley.
Or either Fort Defiance.
Or to Fort Defiance, yeah. Sure. How about, I don't know.
Or Gallup.
Okay, so yeah, so this may be the wave of the future. We'll see. Okay, let's talk about expressing understanding. One of the things that you have to remember, don't let me spook you. This book acts like there's only one question that you can ask people, but the reality is it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because sometimes people want you to be directive and sometimes people don't. So if you're a directive person, if you kind of question people a little gruffly, then you're going to communicate with select individuals. Whereas other people, I mean, the more sensitive you are, the less they will react to you. So it really all depends on the individual you're dealing with. There is no typical, there is no typical client. Just like what we were talking about as far as if they're Navajo or not. How would you talk to a Sioux?
Normal.
Okay, you wouldn't, would you? So if another native came in to talk to you, would you ask them what their tribal affiliation was? No?
No, I'll let them tell me
Oh.
themselves.
Okay,
Basically, have them do an introduction.
and use it for everybody.
Everybody, yeah. I do that with my mentees.
Okay, oh, that's right,
I
you do this.
ask them for their introduction. We start off with one meeting, and that's where our introduction is. And we just establish that rapport with one another. I tell them that I comply with FERPA regulations.
Right,
Whatever we talk about stays between us. I won't
Right.
go to my husband tonight and tell him whatever you said to me. I won't. If it, whatever you tell me, it stays between us unless it's
Right.
conflicting with your life or if it's life-threatening. Then I have to talk to my supervisor about that.
so you already do this.
Yeah.
Do you have any mentees, and you don't have to tell me this, I guess. Do you have any mentees that are non-Navajo?
They're all. I think they're all.
All Navajo, probably.
There are other mentors. They have like a couple who are half.
Oh, okay.
Half Navajo or another tribe.
Well, there's a question for you. If you're half Navajo in another tribe, are you Navajo or are you the other tribe?
Well, they say that if your mother's Navajo, you're Navajo. But I don't know. That one, I would say that they're Navajo if their father's Navajo. If they're part Navajo, then
Okay, I was just wondering. What if their mother's Navajo and their father is Blackfeet? Blackfeet tribe, if your father's Blackfeet, then you're Blackfeet.
really. What I think Navajo, since we're
Matriarchal?
Yeah, so we go by our mother's clan.
Sure.
So,
But if you're Blackfeet, they're patriarchal, so.
well, I guess it's the person, whoever they identify themselves. It's up to them.
Are you guys taking all this in, or are you just trying to ignore that we're even having this conversation? Why are we even talking about this? The reason we're talking about this is because you're going to have to get along with your client. And if you assume just because their mother is Navajo, that they're Navajo, well, maybe as far as the Navajo are concerned, but if their father, like I said, if they're Blackfeet are very patriarchal. And there's a reason for that. And the reason has to do with history. The Blackfeet tribe used to raid other tribes, and sometimes they would steal young females. And then those young females would become part of their tribe. Does all this make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And when that happened, they would adopt them into the tribe. Well, a good example is Sacagawea, which is pronounced a different way, but that's okay. Sacagawea, you know the lady with Lewis and Clark? She was Shoshone. She was Shoshone. But she was captured by, the Blackfeet, and then the Blackfeet traded her to the Assiniboine, and then the Assiniboine traded her to the Hidatsa over in North Dakota. And so she ended up in North Dakota, and she was from Idaho. They kept, okay. So eventually what happened was she married a French guy, Charbonneau. Okay? Okay. So you never know. You just never know. Okay, and you can't assume anything. And especially when you're dealing with people who are indigenous to the United States. Okay. It all depends. It all depends on what you're dealing with. The Navajo way of looking at things isn't the only way that, yeah, okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Did I insult anybody? Have I been inappropriate? Well, let me try again. Okay. I know, everybody's different. So what we're going to talk about today is expressing understanding. We talked about empathy before. Being empathetic involves connecting with clients by attuning to their thoughts and feelings. Of what is shared, one must consider the content of what they're saying, the feelings that they're expressing. Now this can be a trick because if the individual is white, they're going to act one way. If they're going to show their feelings one way. If they're Native, they're going to show it another way. African Americans, of course, they show their feelings in another way. A lot of it has to do with the religion that they have or the religion that they practice. Some people, the religion teaches them not to express feelings, and others do. I tease Don Robinson all the time about being Hindu, which he acts just like I know. People get us mixed up. No, not really. He's a lot younger than I am. Anyway, so people, and it depends on a lot of different things as to how you show feelings. Some families don't show emotion at all. Some families show a lot of emotion. That's how they control each other. Did you hurt your elbow?
Kind of.
Was it doing this?
A little, but not a lot. Just sore.
Yeah, try not to do that. Possible meanings, of course, they're also sharing possible meanings. According to Norcross, the empathic practitioner attends to what is said and is at the periphery of awareness as well as what is said and is the focal awareness. Geez, that didn't even make sense. I read it earlier and it made sense. So what are we talking about? You need to listen to them and understand what they're saying. That's what they're talking about. Okay. I know. First time I read it, it made sense. Who is this Norcross guy anyway? Empathy is seeing the world as that person sees it, not as you would see it if you were in their situation. And this is one of the problems. This is one of the reasons why you need to deal with whatever problem that you have. If somebody else comes in with the exact same problem that you had, then potentially what's going to happen is you're going to put yourself in their position. So you're not going to be reading their situation from their point of view, you're going to be reading it from your point of view. And this is one of the reasons that I went into counseling, not because I wanted to help people. That sounds horrible. I wanted to figure out what was wrong with my first wife. So anytime and I had to deal with this. I had to deal with this over and over again. Anytime I had to deal with somebody who had a wife that was abusive or aggressive, or a situation where the male was aggressive, I had to cut my own experiences completely out of the situation and try to figure out what was going on with them, not with me, because otherwise I'm just counseling myself. And that's not going to work because probably their situation isn't the same as my situation. Feeling the way that the person feels about the situation, that's one of the things that you need to do. Understanding the meaning that the person is giving to the events. Grasping the assumption that influences their particular worldview. Yeah, so worldview is really kind of important. You need to understand where they're coming from. And the only way you can get this information is by talking to them. You need to talk to them and find out how they feel about things. And that's what you have to do, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, as the mentor and the mentee. You're probably doing more counseling as a mentor than...
Well, it's not counseling.
I know it's not, but it is, isn't it?
Yeah. They tell us that we can't counsel or give
Right.
like advice that will change their mind, like influence a different direction. But we're just there to give them resources,
Sure.
but listen to them. We're that emotional support.
Exactly.
But we just kind of like just there listening.
The best counselors are the ones that don't say very much. The best counselors are the ones that can get their clients to talk. And that's actually what you're doing. So despite the fact that you're not really counseling them, all you're doing is nodding your head and listening to them. That's what good counseling actually is. That's what we should have learned all the way through. So as you're counseling the other person's character, the reality is the more you talk, probably the less counseling you're actually getting done. Okay. Counseling isn't giving people advice. Counseling may have something to do with finding resources for your client, but at the same time, usually it's just listening to what they have to say.
Yeah, I noticed that because some of my mentees, they talk and talk and talk, and one of them, they're not talking, and I'm talking, and it
Right.
just feels so awkward. And then, yeah, so it feels like I'm doing an interview, but I'm trying not to do interview
Right.
with them. I'm just, sometimes I just end the session because it seems like they don't want to be there. Yeah.
Sure. And if they don't want to be there, the reason they don't want to be there is the reason that you need to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But they keep coming, so I'm just like,
sure.
so I'm just
Because it's helping them.
very, very patient with that person now.
Can I ask, like, who are your students? Like, what kind of like clients? Like, who is this for?
So the peer mentor program is under student success, under Title III. What we do is we're trained throughout the whole summer. Well, we're supposed to be trained, but we get trained under, like, we learn all the, what he goes through, like the FERPA, you have CPR, you have to, like, know a lot of things about the campus. And we try to help, we try to get students who are freshmen, first-time freshmen, and transfer students. But most of the time, those freshmen don't want to come, so we also recruit other students that want more resources. So what we do is we host workshops, events that will help all students, not just freshmen, but we try to get them open, I guess. We're trying to bring that retention rate, increase the retention, so that they don't just drop out just because they feel like the whole world's against them. So we're that academic support and also that emotional support for them. And we try to have 10 mentees each, and we all have to file paperwork every time we see them. Not like writing while they're talking, but we listen, and whatever information that we still have fresh in our head, we have to like type it out and write it out and try to plan a next session with them. And then after we meet with them, we have to do a whole group with our mentees. So I have 6 of them, and I have to have a group meeting with all of them. And I just have them talk with one another. Each of them have different majors, and I try to help them as best as I can, like setting up tutors for them, or referring them to the learning center. I can go to the library with them, like find a book on their subject. If they have a research topic, I can help them like just elaborate more, like draw ideas. Just like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But we
That's
don't-
a good program.
Yeah.
It is.
So we don't do their homework, but we're kind of like that. We guide them, kind of like they're like sheep, you know, like just trying to guide them the right way,
They
making
gotta
sure,
learn on their own.
yeah, making sure that they do graduate on time.
They stay on campus. They
Yeah.
don't let our transfer.
Mhm.
Sounds like a great program.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to become a mentor, it's like 3 semesters to get to work. It's a lot of work though.
Sounds like it.
It's a lot of work, but it's very fun. I'm there for the students, so it's really interesting.
You're probably learning more about counseling. Actually, everything that I'm saying is exactly what you're doing. So you're learning about counseling. This wouldn't be a bad program for psychology majors to get into.
Yeah, there's 2 of us psychology majors, and then other ones are different.
Right.
The rest of there's only 6 mentors.
So you guys are supposed to have 10?
Yeah, we're supposed to have 10 each, and we're still recruiting them. Like, we had nacho night the other night, so that's kind of like Java and Jeanette, what Johnny was doing, Johnny Baya. So he was a mentor last semester, and he's done, he graduated, so we're the next fresh group of mentors. So what we're trying to do is continue that Java and Jeanette, but we do different. This is our first, was it yesterday? We
Is
had-
that job only like per semester?
The job?
Yeah.
It's for 3 semesters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot of work, so I don't think a lot of.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I used to be a mentor also
Oh, cool.
last fall. So all of us were majors in psychology.
Right.
It was me, Ashley, Barb, Johnny, and Kristen.
Right.
So we used to, I know exactly what she's saying.
Right.
Yeah. But now they changed it up to have mentees as different majors. So when we get mentees, they prefer to have a same field major as
Yeah, they're
them,
trying to,
so,
okay, that makes
yeah.
sense. So you guys were the first ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were the
Yeah.
first one.
So this is like a new program?
Yeah.
It was established in 2017. or
Somewhere in
was it?
2000.
Yeah.
May.
Yeah. Evidently it was started up by the psychology program, evidently, since they were all majors.
Mhm.
Okay. This is something, sounds like it's something, if you're really interested in counseling, that this is a really good way to get into it. But like I said, well, I was trying to cause trouble at the beginning of that one of the lecture, talking about how would you introduce yourself, and that's an interesting question that you have to think about before you get there. I mean, did you introduce yourself with your clans every time you talked to a mentee last year?
Just the first meeting.
First meeting you introduced
We
yourself?
try to because we want to establish that bridge if we're related.
Right.
But we start with them first. If they start with their client introduction, then. But me personally, I always do myself as a
Right.
client introduction. Yeah. But for them, I don't say like, "What's your clan?" But I wait until they say it.
So we know each other, so how would you introduce yourself to me? I mean, obviously, I'm not Neva, but would you do that? I'm just curious.
Oh yeah, I would. Well, can I
Okay.
know? I'll explain it to you.
Sure.
Like how it goes. Like because I have a couple of mentors that
Mhm.
are Anglo. So sorry.
They
And
don't
then-
even know what to call us.
Sorry.
What the hell are we?
Well, when you take Christine Ami's class, you like tells you don't call him white. You don't say that. You have to, yeah.
Oh, she tells you don't call them white?
Yeah.
But I call myself a white guy all the time. I know, okay.
That's you.
Yeah.
I won't
That was
call
just a
you.
personal preference.
People like you, I guess.
You don't call them white bastards, is that, okay, all right, just trying to make sure, okay.
But yeah, like when I meet Anglos, I usually tell them like, cause sometimes they're interested,
Right,
and then I'll tell them like, I'll break it down for them, our clan, kind of like our clan
Right.
system. But they won't understand at the end, so.
well, has anybody ever had an experience with somebody from another tribe where they had to introduce themselves and you felt awkward because you didn't know what to say? Am I just making this up? You guys never met anybody from another tribe? Is that a possibility? Do they exist? I know they're out there somewhere.
I think before I came to Diné College, I used to be embarrassed of saying my clan.
Sure.
After taking foundations in Navajo
Sure.
culture, like, because before I came here, I wasn't traditional.
Right.
I didn't know my culture, my language, or anything like
Sure.
that. But now I'm not embarrassed to say it. That's how I identify myself.
Well, I'm not saying you should be embarrassed. What I'm saying is how do you deal with somebody from another tribe? How do you introduce yourself to somebody from another tribe? That's the information I was seeking.
I still introduce myself.
Okay.
And then I ask them and then afterwards they'll probably say like, oh, I'm from this tribe. They'll tell me like, from, I don't know, North Dakota, one of the tribes, and then I'll ask them like, so how do you guys do your clan system? Like, yeah. Or like I ask them like, do you guys have a clan? Like even Hopis, I ask them like, what? I mean, they tell me they're Hopi, then I'm like, okay, well, how do you guys do your clan system? You guys have one? Then that's when we start talking.
No, I don't know any of the tribes up north that have clan systems.
No.
But they used to, back in the old days, but they don't anymore. Okay. And all the clans were jokes? Okay. One of the clans for the Assiniboines were the Nighthawks, and they called them the Nighthawks because when they farted, it sounded like a nighthawk. I know. I mean, so it's a joke, you know, it's a joke. Okay. But it was their client, and which was okay. And they recognized it as a joke. But that's not insulting to them. It's just funny. Okay. Another group were called the Frozens, because every time somebody came, well, when somebody comes to your house or to your teepee, you have to give them food. And for the Frozens, anytime somebody came to give them food, or somebody came to their house, they said, "Oh, I would make you a steak, but all my meat's frozen," you know, one of those kind. So they called them the Frozens, and it was a joke. It was an insult and a joke, and okay, but okay. It's a joke, okay. And of course, I wasn't part of the joke. I didn't understand. By being empathic, a practitioner can learn to connect with people from different backgrounds and experiences. And of course, that's exactly what we're talking about. I don't want to embarrass you. I'm not trying to embarrass you. I just want to make you think about what's going to happen when this happens to you. And you've got to be open about it. I mean, if you're embarrassed, then you're probably going to lose your client. So you need to approach this situation. Geez, I've never met somebody from Idaho before. You're Nez Perce? What is that? What do you guys do? You know, you have to introduce yourself one way or the other. There's Oprah. The essence to building a client-practitioner relationship depends on whether the client feels understood. Clients will not share personal thoughts and feelings unless they feel understood. If a practitioner can establish a sense of empathic understanding with the client, they are more likely to build a therapeutic relationship. And of course, the more empathic you are, the more likely that you're going to be successful as a mentor or as a counselor. I'm sure you're very successful mainly because the reason you're in this field is because you want to be empathic with these select individuals. So it's probably a little easier for you than it is for somebody in the STEM program, because they never learn any of this stuff. And they don't even think about this stuff. You know, they think in numbers and scientific formulas and whatnot. I mean, that's really kind of strange. My son's in the math program, and he's trying to deal with the faculty. He's in a master's program, and he's trying to deal with the faculty. Some of these guys are so screwed up that they can't communicate with anybody. They won't make eye contact with anybody. They're so, what's the word I'm looking for? Asperger. They have Asperger's syndrome. Okay, so they can't make eye contact with anybody. So if you try to talk to them, they look away and they talk in formulas. And you can't have a conversation with him. He's flunking a class right now, and he has to go in and talk to his professor tomorrow. But his professor has Asperger's, and he won't make eye contact. So the probability, and sometimes he turns completely around to talk to people, or he hides behind a piece of paper to talk to people. I know. Yeah. So and my son was a bartender, and the only way you make money as a bartender is to be nice to people. So he's really good at it, making money, being nice to people. So the strange thing is, all of these professors who have these personality problems, they all gravitate toward my son, because my son is such an affable person. So here they are, they're trying to have a conversation with him. They're standing behind him, they're walking down the hallway. The guy's standing behind him and having a conversation. And if my son tries to make eye contact with him, the guy backs up. And it's like they're chasing each other. Like my son's trying to, he's got somebody behind him, he's got a ghost behind him. And this guy's just trying to keep away from his face. It's bizarre. But that's the math program. Okay, all right. We're lucky we can get along with people. Expressing empathy means communicating an understanding of another person's experience, their behavior, their viewpoint, their meanings, and their feelings. Empathy involves restating their own words, your understanding of what the client is in your own words, what they're trying to express. Okay, and this is a bit of a trick. This is Egan's model. This is Egan's model using the Rogerian therapy technique. And I'm going to show you what it looks like in just a second. When a practitioner uses empathic understanding, because the client feels understood, they are more likely to be open and trusting, to share more of their thoughts and feelings, to help clients who are having trouble expressing themselves. And sometimes you'll have that client. You were talking about one of your mentees. They answer you in monosyllabic answers. They don't want to say more than yes or no. Okay. Yeah. When a practitioner uses empathic understanding, they are validating the client's experience. It shows the client that the practitioner accepts and understands the client's experiences and concerns. This is especially important if the client has been told that their point of view is incorrect due to an abusive relationship. This is very common. A lot of individuals are told, they're taught by their parents, they're taught by their significant others, by their brothers and sisters that they're stupid, that they'll never amount to anything, that they are worthless. And because of that, a lot of the times these individuals will have a difficult time showing their feelings or disclosing anything, because anytime they disclose anything to their abusive partner, whether it's their parents, their partner, or their brothers and sisters, they get jumped on, they get insulted. So these individuals may have a very difficult time expressing themselves. And you're going to become their very best friend. You're probably the very best friend of some of those poor people that you are the mentor of. Because nobody has ever treated them like that. Nobody's ever listened to them before. This happens a lot. This is, our society today is really kind of interesting. Parents are not doing a very good job of raising their children. There are a lot of people out there that have a problem with their parents. Your parents may have been perfect, but other people's parents, they don't listen. They're too busy. They're watching television. Don't bother me. I'm binge watching Orange is the New Black or whatever that television show is. Don't bother me. I'm watching this television show. So there's a lot of that going on out there. There's a lot of individuals who have been raised using the video games as their babysitters. That's one of the reasons why they live in their video world, their virtual world. I was thinking about this the other day. Avatars. Okay. The Hindu religion has avatars. And they have these gods, and these gods will change their persona, and then they will do whatever they need to do. Shiva does that. Kali does this. Kali will change her personality or her persona, and then she will go and fight a war. She suddenly becomes a warrior. She'll go and fight a war. Well, in essence, that's what video games are doing to people. This is what Chris looks like, but his avatar is 7 feet tall and blue. Wait a minute, that's a movie, isn't it? Okay. But his avatar is 7 feet tall and blue, and they've got the power to jump over mountains. And you've got a sword. Yeah, exactly. You've got laser beam eyes, exactly. And you have a sword of retribution that chops everybody's head off. So the reality is this may be Chris, but his avatar, he feels that his avatar is real. Because he lives in a virtual world as well. I'm just kidding. Okay, I was just using you as an example. But congratulations on it being 7 feet tall and blue. with laser beam eyes and a sword of retribution. Okay. But people believe this kind of stuff. And this is one of the reasons they want to live in a virtual world. If you're in an abusive relationship, this individual may be more real than reality. Does all that make sense? And the more we get into this, the longer that we have video games out there and that we have kids that are being babysat by the video games, the more likely this individual lives in a virtual world and doesn't live in the real world. The real world is too painful to live in. It's too abusive. It's too ugly. So let's live in the virtual world where if I lose a life, I can always come back. I can always come back because I get 3 of them or whatever. I keep watching Jumanji on television. I identify with Smolder Bravestone or whatever. Me and The Rock. Yeah, we're like this, okay? Actually, I'm probably closer to Kevin Hart, but that's okay. Students often feel awkward or uncomfortable trying to express empathic understanding. Most societal norms don't allow people to talk about feelings. Nodding and saying "uh-huh" is less personal, of course. So we try not to. If your friend is telling you something, then a lot of times you're not going to react to it. And of course, this is the saddest video I've ever seen. Here she's trying to get her to high five. Oh, look at her face. Oh, she's just completely destroyed. Now I'm going to cry. No, I'll be right. Anyway, when reflecting content, the practitioners restate their understanding of what the client has said. This reflection of the client's reality indicates to the client that the practitioner is trying to understand. Are you saying that, whatever. What I hear you saying is, as I understand it, it sounds like. And of course, you've got a natural way of saying this to people. And it may not be what those crazy Hoosier ladies said it was, but you may have your own way of saying, well, what are you talking about? Is this what you really mean? That's, whatever it is, whatever is natural for you. But in reality, what you're saying is, I hear you. By repeating back their feelings, you're saying, I hear you. Practitioner. Who is this lady? Does anybody recognize her?
Kitty.
You know her?
Huh?
Who is this?
You don't know her?
I'm sorry?
You don't know her?
I don't know her.
From Hunger Games.
Jennifer.
Really? Is it Jennifer
Jennifer
Lawrence?
Lawrence, yeah.
Is that who it is?
Yeah.
Is that the Hunger? Is that the Hunger Games?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you sure that's Jennifer Lawrence? She looks so young. Practitioners must show that they are attuned to a client's emotional experiences, and they can do this by reflecting feelings, of course. Besides what the client is saying, the client's feelings can be discerned from body language, their tone of voice, and their facial expressions. Looking at her face, she's pretty pissed. Even though she's saying, yes, yes, she seems fairly angry. And we can tell that just by looking at her facial expression. So you need to read the body language, you need to listen to the tone of voice, you need to look at the facial expressions. Reflecting feelings may be accompanied by a softer voice or leaning forward to imply deeper connection with what the client is expressing. More firmness if the client is expressing negative emotions like anger, disgust, or dismay. One of the things that your client may do is I keep telling you that they're going to try to control you. The reality may be that they don't want to be there. So they're going to try to control you with their behavior. If they show anger, they're trying to make you back off. If they're showing disgust, they're trying to make you not want to counsel them. And this happens a lot. This happens with a lot of clients. Sometimes they will swear a lot. Well, I talked about that last time. They'll try to swear so that you're so appalled that you don't want to have anything to do with them. And this is just a means of controlling the situation. They feel out of control. People that are used to being in control don't want to feel like they're not in control. So they'll do anything to keep you from taking control of the situation. And of course, you're not really looking to control your client. What you're looking for is a give and take to help them. But they don't want that. They see that as a negative. So they'll try to control the situation with anger, with their verbiage, potentially. Getting the client's feelings wrong is all right. Sometimes people will say one thing, and the tough thing is when their face says one thing and their words say something totally different. You've got to make a choice as to which one you're going to pick. If you pick what they say, then you're probably going to be wrong. It's really hard to control your body language. Your body language is usually right, and your words are usually constructive. So if they're constructing their words, they can control their words, but they can't control their body language. So if you have to make a choice, you're probably going to be right if you read their body language rather than what they say. As long as you share your hunches in a tentative voice, clients will probably feel comfortable correcting you. I have had clients that I got it wrong every damn time. Every time. And here's the irritating part. When I reversed the situation the next time they made a statement, and I said what they had said before, then I was wrong again. I know. I was just constantly wrong. It was like it was a contest to see how wrong I could possibly be, how stupid I really was. That's exciting. Eventually, we got to the point where we weren't playing that game anymore. They weren't trying to give me the wrong information over and over and over and over and over again. Eventually, but it took 3 counseling sessions, 3 or 4, for them to stop playing this stupid game where I am so damn dumb that I can't get anything right. But we had to play that game in order. They had done this with other counselors. They had done this with other counselors, and they had always left before they got to what the real problem was. This was their way of keeping people at arm's length, showing them how stupid they were, and that was okay. If you've ever seen the movie Good Will Hunting, that's what Will does. Will shows everybody how stupid they are. But Robin Williams in that movie fooled him because he didn't say anything. And they had session after session where it was completely silent for him. And eventually, of course, Matt Damon opened up. But that's the game some clients will play. And unfortunately, of course, especially if they've been through counseling before, sometimes they have to play the game before they can get to anything substantive. Some feelings are not as acceptable in select cultures as in others. If it's an Asian culture, homosexuality, for example, is not really accepted over there, except it kind of is, but it's not. It's socially unacceptable, but it's not that uncommon. So since it's socially unacceptable, they will bounce around the topic. They will talk around the topic, try to stay away from this topic. And if you try to bring them closer to that topic, they will, they claim it's your fault. Well, why are you talking about this? I'm not supposed. We don't talk about this in my culture. That kind of thing. So it's an interesting game that they play. Sometimes you will be talking to somebody that their real problem is so painful they will, like I said, they'll bounce around it. Not just the homosexuality thing, but maybe child abuse or sexual abuse. A lot of times they just cannot talk about that because it hurts too much. And this may be one of the reasons. Of course, today is the day that Christine Blasey Ford is testifying before the Judiciary Committee, and people are saying, why did it take you 35 years to tell people about this? Well, it didn't take her 35 years to talk about it. She talked about it 8 years ago. She told her husband about it. She told her counselor about it. But the reality is people don't like to talk about this kind of stuff. What you want to do is make it go away. And the best way to make it go away is to forget about it. But can you really forget about it? And in her case, the answer is no. As sad as that is. Okay, so here we are, and these are about as superficial as you can possibly get. These are just examples of somebody showing somebody their feelings or what feelings they're trying to display. The client says, you know, I haven't heard from any of them. If they are busy, they could at least email me. And the practitioner says, it sounds like you feel sad about that. Now, none of us are going to say, oh, it sounds like you feel sad about that. We're not going to say that. We're probably going to say it in a much more engaging sentence than, it sounds like you feel sad about that. Just an example. The client sounding angry and speaking with a tight jaw. I feel like we just aren't getting anywhere. And this is what the practitioner says. You seem to be feeling impatient with me in our progress. Just an example, and of course this is very superficial. The client says, is on a team, they say, some of the people on this team just aren't carrying their weight. And the practitioner says, I'm guessing you are feeling kind of frustrated. Now, if you don't say I feel like you're feeling kind of frustrated, then you're wrong, right? No. We would be a little bit more engaged in this. The problem with showing these examples is that, of course, we don't know all the other words that this person has used. We're just looking at one sentence, and then they're reflecting this one sentence. It's not like every time they say something and there's feeling in the sentence, then you're going to reflect it back to them. That's not the way it works. Like I said, the less you talk, the better off you are. The more you can get your client to talk, the better off you should be. Now, if your client starts going off into the weeds somewhere, starts wandering off into the ionosphere, then you need to bring them back and keep them on task. However, the more you talk, the less counseling you're actually doing. The reality is that we don't fix anybody. We help people, but we don't fix them. The only person that can fix that person is them. It's like an alcoholic. I can't make an alcoholic stop drinking. The only person that can make that jackass stop drinking is that jackass. J-A-C-K-A-S-S. It's a male donkey, okay? So the client says, the family member looking scared, when they start fighting and yelling, I just run up to my room. This is the dumbest one. This is the worst one. And the practitioner says, I wonder if you feel kind of scared. That's what you'd say, isn't it, Sharon? I think you feel kind of scared. I'm sorry. That's so stupid. The client says, yesterday out of the blue, I was I was one of the people they laid off. I'm not sure what I am going to do. And this is what the idiot practitioner says. Wow, that's shocking. What shocking news. You look like you are feeling quite worried and upset, which is an understatement, isn't it? How are you supposed to react to this? I just got laid off. I'm not sure what's going to happen next. And you say, wow, what shocking news. Arlene's in the back making faces. You look like you are feeling quite worried and upset. Why not say, that must be really upsetting. But it isn't the fact that you said that it's upsetting. It's the fact that your modulation of your voice shows that you really care, right? It's your voice. Wow, that must be really upsetting. That's the way you have to say it. Okay. Anyway, in common conversation, many people believe that they are reflecting feelings but are actually expressing thoughts, opinions, or judgments. This is usually because the individual is saying, I feel that, instead of I feel, followed by an expression of feeling. So it sounds like opinion. I feel that you aren't paying attention to me. That's a thought or a judgment. So anything with I feel that, and you're in big trouble. I feel that this assignment is too hard. It's a thought or a judgment. I feel that you children should clean your room. That's a directive, of course. So anytime you say I feel that, you're actually showing a thought or a judgment. Hilary Duff, right? Thanks, Chris. She's like 100 years old now, isn't she? She used to be on Nickelodeon. No? You might watch Hilary Duff when you were a kid. Thank you. You're that old?
One song, that's fine.
No, she must be in her 30s. I feel that you always misunderstand me. That's a thought or a judgment. I feel that this group is terrific. I feel that you have lots of strengths. One of the things that we're learning with this administration is hyperbole. The president speaks in hyperbole like all the time. He made a speech to the UN, what was it, 2 days ago? And he said, we're doing better. This administration in 2 years has done more for the United States than any administration in history. I know. Are you kidding me? Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, and in 2 years you've done more than Abraham Lincoln did. Truman saved Europe after World War II, and Trump has done more in 2 years than Truman did, saving Europe. I don't know. Hyperbole. So a lot of people are speaking in hyperbole these days, or laughing at hyperbole because it's so silly. In families and groups, practitioners may encourage members to reflect feelings, especially in family situation. The practitioner can ask how they think someone else in the family feels. Often the problem in group is that situations are engendering feelings that are not being expressed or acknowledged. And of course, that family situations are always emotional. Family situations have to do with family dynamics. Anytime you're dealing with family dynamics, you've got a person in a subordinate position. You've got children that are accepting roles in their families. The best role to have, or maybe it's not. The best role to have is as a golden child, the number one child, the best person in the family, the best kid. How many golden children do we have in here? How many people are their parents' favorite? Like, I got one. I got one person I got two that are the parents. Three, okay.
Well, I'm the only child, so.
Yeah, with everything now.
That makes you platinum, okay? And I congratulate you on being an only child. So congratulations on that. But there are other roles that you could potentially have. You could be the joker. You could be the scapegoat. You could be, if there's only two people, how many people come from a two-child family? There's only two of you. You only have one brother or sister. Anybody? Usually in that situation, one of the children is the golden child, the other child is the opposite of the golden child. So if the golden child always does their homework, the other person never does their homework. That's the way it works. I know it's like a balance. So if one person is athletic, the other person is a brainiac. Okay. Yeah, that's the way it works. Yeah. So anytime we're dealing with family dynamics, sometimes we're dealing with a father that is absent, and we're dealing with a mother who is overly aggressive. So why is the father absent if we've got this aggressive female in the house? So the father doesn't pay attention to the family. Why not? Why wouldn't he pay attention to the family? Aren't all fathers want to be there and want to play with the kids and Isn't that the way it's supposed to be? But what if we have if the mother's an aggressive female? What's going on? She's aggressive. He's absent. Even when he's there, he's absent. What's going on?
She's taking the role as a father?
Well, she's being aggressive. Yeah, she kind of is taking the role of the father, I guess, if you think that fathers have to be aggressive. But she's so aggressive that
Our children are gonna be aggressive.
rather than create a negative situation in the household where the mother and father are fighting for power, he just kind of disappears. Did anybody see the last Big Bang Theory on Monday? There's another one tonight. I know, I'm so excited. 2 Big Bangs in a week. Oh, man. Sounds dirty or something. But if you saw Big Bang on Monday, Amy Farrah Fowler's mother is a very aggressive person, and the person playing her father is Teller of Penn and Teller. And if you've ever seen the act with Penn and Teller, Penn does all the talking and Teller never speaks. He does all the magic. So Teller is the father, and in the television show, he doesn't speak because the mother's so aggressive. So what we get is a situation where, in order to keep peace in the family, the father just kind of disappears because the mother's so aggressive. So, I mean, it's a balance. It's a balance, and we see a lot of balances like that. So if you think of your own family, or maybe a family down the street, where the father is a very aggressive individual, potentially you see a very subordinate female. If you have two aggressive people in the same family, what do? They knock heads all the time, right? Now siblings can do that because siblings are supposed to fight. How many people fight? How many have fights with their, not you of course, but how many people have fights with their siblings? Knock heads with their older brothers or older sisters. Oh man, that's that's why I'm in Arizona, okay? Boom, boom, boom. My older brother and I, my older sister and I, just knocked heads constantly. I know, it's terrible. Damn it, they're all smarter than I am. So I know, it's irritating. I hate it when they're smarter than me. But they are. Okay. So what emotion am I feeling right now? What do you want to say to me? You whippy. Wimpy guy. Did I hear wimpy guy? I thought I heard that, or was that just my own thoughts? So here I started to cry. Didn't you guys feel sorry for me? Didn't you feel empathy for me? Since my brothers and sisters are all smarter than I am? You didn't feel that?
You feel sad?
Thank you. No, I'm making a joke about it. Maybe because it's so painful, I have to make a joke about it, right? And you're going to run into me. No, you're going to run into people that make jokes about all the ugly things that happen to them. Why would they do that? Why would they? What? This isn't funny. It's not funny to have all these strong emotions, is it? You're going to find people that laugh all the time, even at ugly things. Why is that? What's going on with these people? Is there something wrong with them? There is. There's something wrong. Why have they become so callous to all this ugly stuff? Where'd all the humor come from? Why do they make jokes about everything? This should be painful. And here you're making a joke about it. Why?
When I was a volunteer firefighter,
Yeah.
I used to hang out with all the EMTs and all the they have like an ugly humor, like they just laugh
They're
about
so bad.
everything and.
I
it's just
know, ugly stuff. I
Mhm.
know, that's not Navajo, you're not supposed to do that. Luckily, I'm a white guy, so we can make jokes like that.
Yeah.
Okay, they use humor to dissipate their emotions. That's what was going on with your EMT friends. How in the world are you going to survive if the next time you go to pick up somebody at a car accident that you can't deal with it, right? Because you become so emotionally attached to whatever's going on, you can't handle it. So you make jokes. You make jokes so that you dissipate your feelings. Yeah, you aim in a different direction. If you went in the direction that you should be going, well, maybe not should be going, you wouldn't be able to handle it next time. So you get this, you build up this callus against ugly stuff, and you make jokes all the time, and that's okay. The reality is, it's okay. It's a coping technique, and it works. I was just kidding about my family. I was the joker in the family, okay? So, and I told you, there's always a joker, there's always a scapegoat, there's always the golden child, and then there's always the guy that's kind of a bronzy color, you know. Okay. All right. That was me. I was came in third place. That's what bronze means. Didn't even get the silver medal. 6 kids in my family, and I'm one of them. Kids in the middle. It is possible to reflect both content and feeling in the same sentence. And this is what you should try to do. You need to show them that you're listening, because a lot of people don't listen to them. If they have a conversation with their significant other, one of the things that they do is that the significant other is trying to gain the upper hand. So a lot of times they don't listen to content. But you need to show them that not only did I hear what you were saying, but I also understand the feelings that you're displaying. A lot of individuals, when they have a conversation, they're trying to think of what they're going to say. If you've ever been in my office, a lot of times I don't talk for like 15 or 20 minutes. And that's mainly because I'm really listening to what you're saying. I really am listening to what you're saying. So I don't say anything because I'm listening. I'm just listening. I'm just hearing what you're saying. Yesterday, Dr. Wolf came into my office and was ranting about something. She rants a lot. Have you noticed? Anyway, and of course I'm not saying anything. She thinks I'm brilliant, but I never say anything. So it's really what she's saying is she's assuming that I agree with everything she says because I didn't say anything. Okay, anyway. And I'm not that brilliant. Anyway, so yeah, you need to listen to the content. You need to hear what they're saying, and you need to understand the feelings that they're expressing. There you go. Okay, so if you can show both of them in the same sentence, that's much better. Using this skill allows a practitioner to include more information in their reflective comment. And we've got examples right here. Client, can you believe it? She just left me a note telling me to leave. She hadn't said anything about leaving. And this is what the brilliant practitioner said. It sounds like you were shocked when your wife told you that she wanted you to leave. That's what the brilliant practitioner said. Okay. The client, ever since I was laid off, I just mope around. I am just at a loss. And the brilliant practitioner says, so, in a way, you are grieving about losing your job. So we've got emotion, grieving, and he showed them that he was listening to what they said. You lost your job, so you're grieving. This is so brilliant. Wait a minute, it gets better. A group at a picnic where one person didn't show up and didn't let them know, and this is what the practitioner says. It seems like most of you are feeling hurt and a little angry that Mary Ann didn't show up at the picnic. Has anybody ever watched Gilligan's Island? No? Okay. Mary Ann was one of the characters in Gilligan's Island. There were 2 ladies on the island, or 2 young, attractive women on the island. One was Mary Ann. She was the girl next door. And the other was like a Las Vegas showgirl. I know. So you miss all the good stuff, not watching old television shows. The child client says, it is no fun to watch football games since dad left. And this is what the practitioner says to the little kid. So before your dad left, the two of you used to watch football games together, and now you feel sad and really miss him whenever the football games are on. Would you really say that to a little kid that had just said, it used to be, it's no fun watching football without my dad. Is that what you would say to that kid? Really? Does anybody have something better to say to that kid?
It sounds like the practitioner's reassuring the client, like he was kind of a lawyer in the law, just to say, for the record, you're saying this, we're trying to understand that you're saying this.
If you've been watching CNN lately, they've had lots of lawyers on, and that's exactly it.
Yeah.
This person says one sentence, and then the lawyer, he just writes page after page after page. Exactly, you're actually absolutely right. Yeah, that's a little bit too much to be saying to this little kid. And actually, they're putting new ideas in this kid's head. So you need to be really careful not to implant new ideas in the kid's head. Oh, no, I have to miss Dad. Damn, it wasn't that bad. And now it sounds like I really miss him. I don't miss him that much. Kind of a jerk. He farted a lot while we were watching television. Kids always talk about that kind of stuff. Summarizing involves listening to considerable information provided by the client and communicating understanding of what that information is. Sometimes clients have so much information to share that practitioners listen for some time before making a reflecting comment. Yeah, so it's almost like they're telling us that we have to reflect everything. The reality is you don't, especially with Dr. Wolf. Wow. Especially when she's ranting, you don't want to reflect everything that she's said. No, but sometimes you need to summarize what they've said, just to show that you have been actually listening to what they say. I don't do that with Dr. Wolf. She understands. She thinks that, we won't go into that, okay. She thinks that I'm listening to her. No, I really am listening to her. But you need to summarize, and you can summarize in a sentence. You don't really need to write a dissertation about what the person has just said. In the dominant culture in the United States, it is considered impolite to interrupt. How about in your culture? Is it impolite to interrupt? No, it's not?
Oh, it is.
Always? What if it's an elder that interrupts? Is that okay? Is that okay? I'm thinking it probably is, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Because Wilson interrupts me all the time. Yeah, he treats me like I'm the dumbest guy in the world, which is probably fairly close to being true. Okay. Because he knows things that I don't know, and he's trying to tell me that I shouldn't have said that.
I think it's more like interruption of what type of conversation it is.
Okay.
So it varies.
So it all depends. It all depends on the conversation. Okay. After taking in masses of information from the client, it is considered appropriate for the practitioner to interrupt in order to summarize. But the reality is, if you've got a client and this person is really going to town, let them go ahead and finish their thoughts. Because if you interrupt, wow, you just put a roadblock in front of those people. And they may go backwards instead of forwards after you throw up the roadblock. They may go sideways instead of keep going in a specific direction. Sometimes the information that you're taking in is so painful and you know exactly where this thing is going and you don't want to go there yourself, that you interrupt your client and stop the thought process. And that ain't good, because they need to get this out. This may be the first time they've ever said this to anybody. And they need to get it out. And you don't interrupt them until they actually get it out. They will stop when they feel like they have to stop. When all the information is out there. Okay? So I'm telling you not to interrupt. The book's telling you to interrupt, and I'm telling you, don't do it. Wait until they stop. Because it's cathartic. And if you stop at the catharsis before it's finished, then you've ruined the catharsis. So don't do it. Just let them go, okay? Remember, you're not going to fix that person. That person can only fix themselves. And so if they're using this as a catharsis, if they're using this as a way to get the information out there that has never come out before, then don't do it. Don't interrupt them. Just let them go. Arlene agrees with me. I mean, if it's a kid, you're not going to interrupt them because they're saying something you don't want, right? And you've been in this situation when you were counseling children. Yeah. Right?
What if they're talking and they ramble on and you kind of don't understand it and you don't understand the point and you're trying to figure out what they're saying?
I still wouldn't interrupt them. No. Yeah, sometimes Marius's kids talk around. Marius's kids talk in, what am I trying to think of? They talk in jargon. And at the time you don't understand the words that they're saying. But if you interrupt them, they'll stop talking completely. So you got to just let them go. And I understand what you're talking about. But go ahead and let them get the whole thought out. Okay? And if you still can't understand it, then ask a question at the end. Wait until they pause. Because when they pause is when they're thinking. And now is the time to ask them a question. Or maybe with your question you can guide them in a more helpful direction. Does all that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This has worked for me in the past, okay? And I don't agree with interrupting.
What
Ever.
if you're on the time frame?
What's more important, the time or them?
Ask my boss.
Yeah, the bosses.
My boss is like, you can only go from 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
And, so.
This is what I would do. But then again, I get fired from time to time, but it doesn't happen very often. I just let them go. I let them go, and don't worry about the time. The time's the least important thing is time in this
That's
case.
what I was saying too.
Yeah, okay. Well, your boss probably doesn't agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I know. That sounds like your boss is just a little bit anal retentive as far as time is concerned. Okay.